Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Okay, give me a second. I forgot to put up my little logo thing, okay? Hey y'all, it's Necey Dixon. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, y'all, welcome back. Okay. I know I'm late on the reviews, but yesterday was not my day. I did not feel like reviewing. I didn't feel like reviewing yesterday at all. I had to take a day. But I'm super glad that y'all still wanted to come here and have conversation about Real Housewives of Atlanta. I thought that I was really gonna be able to review 3 shows. Like, low key, y'all tell me, okay? I feel like Real Housewives of Atlanta, the episode was cool. It was real slow paced, which is why we're reviewing Real Housewives of Atlanta over lunch, right? Love and Marriage Huntsville had a little bit more content, and I do feel like y'all prefer Love and Marriage Huntsville over Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I'm like, okay, if anybody missed the lunchtime live, they're only gonna be missing Real Housewives of Atlanta. And then that way, when I go live, when I regularly go live, we can talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville at 5:30. Um, Another thing that was on my mind, and this ain't got to do with Real Housewives of Atlanta, but I had to watch Love and Marriage Huntsville 2 times. And I low key thought about watching it a third time because I just was not attached to the show just yet. Nothing really like drew me in. So I didn't even take notes on Love and Marriage Huntsville, but we still gonna I'm not Huntsville. I didn't take notes on Love and Marriage DC. So that one is gonna be straight off the dome. Let me fix my lighting. That one is gonna be straight off my head, okay? But that's gonna be later on, okay? So let me say hey to y'all who are in the chat. I appreciate y'all joining me for the lunch. Hey Kenya, Shara, Naturally Mar, Nola, Latoya, hey Bondi, Alf. All right, y'all. I think we should go ahead and get into the review. But I want to know what y'all's thoughts were. Honestly, I cannot hide the excitement that Kenya is giving me. And I hate to say it, y'all. Y'all don't understand. Every episode, I'm waiting on Kenya to make me be like, yup, that's the one I know. That's the Kenya I don't know. This is why I can't stand her ass. But every episode, I find myself relating to the shit that Kenya is saying, and I can't deny it. Okay. I told y'all last week, y'all ain't got to make no room for me on Teen Twirl. Yeah, y'all don't have to do that. Okay. I'll be in the overflow section. So that way, if I need to dip out early, I will. That's how I feel about Kenya. But for now, I really do like the girl. So I thought that the perfect thumbnail for this episode is gonna be triggered. Kenya was obviously triggered by Ralph. And I feel like she said it best. And I'm so glad that she called it out because he reminds me so much of Mark. Like, she never lied. Whenever she said you remind me so much of Mark, I was like, wow, she's right. But then I also was like, wow, she might be healed. Because for her to go ahead and identify exactly what it was that he was doing and how toxically similar he is to her ex-husband, for me, I was like, you hit that right on the head. Okay. Another thing, y'all. I was talking to y'all about this last week. These braids gotta go. These braids gotta go. I was gonna get a touch up, but I'm about to put in my U-part wig. I can't. I can't. Sanivia said, yes, I'm a new inductee into Teen Twirl, and I love it over here. I do like it, okay? Even Nola said she was living for Kenya in that moment. Ugh. Y'all just give me a couple more episodes. I can't induct myself into Teen Twirl. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into order of events. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not subscribed so you don't miss a live, because I'm planning to do more of these lunchtime ones. And if you already subscribed, make sure you turn on your notification bell so you don't miss whenever I go live on days like this, okay? All right. So let me pull up my notes. And another reminder for those of you who want to talk to me more than once today, we're talking about Love and Marriage Huntsville at 5:30. But for right now, let's go ahead and get into the good old girl Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay, so the episode starts out and we see Marlo, Sheree, and Kenya meeting up at Marlo's pot of dirt. Sheree's words. Marlo was working on getting a new home. And at first, I thought she was renovating her townhome. And I was like, we love a frugal queen. You went and got the townhouse paid for by that man, supposedly, allegedly. And now you're just renovating what he gave you with your Real Housewives of Atlanta check. So I was like, okay, go ahead, save coin. But then I realized with all the changes that she was talking about, she was just getting a new house built. That's what I assumed. So y'all know what happened. Marlo went and signed that Real Housewives of Atlanta contract, and she said, boom, let me go ahead and turn this into legit money. And I'm not mad at it, okay? So many people know if you want to accumulate wealth, which I'm working on, okay? I really want to work on that. You need to accumulate real estate, ownership of some type of property. So Marlo is taking this check that she waited so long for, and she's turning it into something that's going to be hers. So I think that Marlo's doing the right thing. So shout out to her for working on her home. So she's talking to her builder, and Marlo, even though she's been doing the most this season, she's been taking me the fuck out because I also have been able to relate to a lot of the things that Marlo was saying on the show. So she was telling the builder, yeah, one of them took 20 years to build a house and the other one's still building. So these are the main people who are going to know exactly what to tell me. So they look at the floor plan and Kenya calls out, wait, hold on. Your closet is bigger than your bedroom? And Marlo has like 4 closets on that blueprint and 1 bedroom. The bedroom is 500 square feet and the closets are way bigger. And at first, I thought that sounded crazy. Y'all tell me what y'all think, but at first I thought that sounded crazy. But low key, it's not really. For Marlo to be so driven by like fashions and literally you only need one place to sleep, true. 500 square feet for a bedroom is not bad. Like there's people in cities, people downtown who have studio apartments that are around 500 to 600 square feet. In Deep Ellum, Dallas, Texas, I saw a micro studio for 499 square feet. Have y'all lost it? So the fact that people can live in apartments that big and Marlo's bedroom is 500 square feet, but her house still has the department feel, I don't think that that's a bad idea for her. But for me, I was kind of like, is that a bad idea whenever she goes to sell her house? Because you kind of want to think about that too. But girl, yes. Okay. April said the same thing. April said the same thing. If you get ready to sell your house, the next person who moves there, they're not going to feel the exact same way as she does. So, I mean, if you like it, I love it, Marlo. But if you don't plan to move, then that's the way to go. Okay. I mean, and eventually somebody will buy the house. It's just gonna take a long time. You might not be able to get your money for it. So anyway, they start talking about Marlo's money again. And for whatever reason, it seems like Marlo gets triggered in these conversations. But we still have no idea what the hell she does for money, y'all. Whenever they introduced her to the show, they brought her on and wanted to use Le eBay or Le Archive as her, main source of income. That's what they wanted to do. But let's be real, Marlo has had the fashions for the 10 years plus that we've known her. So she had to get money another way. And I know y'all are going to say that she got the money from the billionaire. I don't know. Okay. Whatever. So I don't understand why she gets so triggered. Just explain to us what it is that you do. So Kenya and Sheree are talking about, oh, I thought you were a Buckhead girl. Like, why are you so far? And she says, that's because I can't afford Buckhead. I love the realness, Marlo. I really do. But you do talk about money all the time. So Kenya, I feel like in a friendly way, asked her, well, we're not the ones talking about money all the time. You were at your event talking about how you had all this money and you worked your way up from the bottom to the top and God's plan. Marlo was definitely giving God's plan by Drake, talking about how much money she had. And then all of a sudden, Marlo just turns up and starts cussing. And I'm kind of just like, Marlo, you doing the most. You doing the most. And I do feel like Kenya knows that you're doing the most, and Kenya knows that you're gunning for her because in this, she had an opportunity to turn it into something, but obviously she didn't. So at this point, I'm gonna make that strike two. Okay, strike one is whenever she specifically came for the Money Girls at her late archive event, and she wanted to make it seem like she had the main issue with Kenya. Kenya laughed that off. Strike two, you want to turn up about living in Buckhead or somewhere else. And Kenya just laughed it off again. And I was very surprised that Kenya laughed it off. And part of me was like, you know what? The only reason why she's doing that is because she is the moment. Okay. And she doesn't want to give Marlo any leverage off of the years of veteran service that she has put into Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I'm not mad at it. Because y'all got to be real. I could not stand Kenya. Damn near hated the woman. And that's because of all the years of service that she put in on this show to make me dislike her. So now that Kenya's at a point to where she don't necessarily have to be the villain, I think she doesn't want to work too hard for her check. And I wouldn't work too hard for it either. But eventually, yes, April, Kenya is definitely going to bite one day, and it won't be nice. It won't. It won't. So we gonna see, y'all. And Ayana, right? Ayana said, "I'm trying to figure out what Sheree's career is." I was thinking the same thing. Speaking of, whenever they said, "Marlo, we still don't know what you do for work," I start thinking about all these other people where I'm like, "Well, what do they do for work?" Like Sheree, we don't know what Sheree does for work. Drew, we know what she did for work. We don't know what Drew does for work. Drop it where Drew is not paying for the bills. We know what her husband does. I guess you could say her husband pays the bills. Who knows? But it's things like that where I'm like, I want to know what y'all do for work. So next, y'all, they start talking about Tyrone. We find out that Tyrone has put in a request to meet them in New York, and Tyrone ain't coming on this show, y'all. You better call Tyrone. You better call Tyrone. Tyrone is not coming on this show. I feel like I do get scammer vibes from Sheree. Now, y'all tell me, like, the way that people be saying that Marlo be scamming, I get those vibes from Sheree. And I think the other people on the show do too. Because one, she don't pay nobody, right? But two, I feel like part of her contract of coming back on Real Housewives of Atlanta was that she was going to sell Tyrone to us. So I think she jumped the gun and said that Tyrone would come on the show, which is why they plotted for the New York City trip, which was within 100 miles or so of Tyrone, only for Tyrone not to show up. So I think she's definitely using it as to her benefit to get a little bit more coin. But I don't think we're going to see Tyrone this season. Y'all tell me if y'all think we're going to see Tyrone. LaToya, Tyrone lives on the phone like Jamal. He does. He does. Okay. So I think she's dodging that. Like, oh, I don't know. I know y'all gave me that stipend to bring Tyrone on the show, and that was part of my storyline, but it's not my fault if legally he can't come and y'all done already paid me the money. Okay. So now Kenya ends up talking about what Sheree's feelings might be on having to spend the weekend with Drew in New York. And Sheree says that Drew just wanted to start something. Now, this argument between Sheree and Drew is giving the least, in my opinion. Just because you have Drew, who I feel like works overtime for her damn check. Because if you want to stay married to that man and have that man disrespect you, let that man do that, beyond my damn TV screen. I don't want to see that on my TV screen every week. You've been selling your trash husband to us for 2 seasons at this point, right? Now, the next thing that you're selling to us is these scammy ass business practices. And then finally, not only did you expose, do I want to say, did she expose her husband or did she expose herself? Because to be real with y'all, I feel like Drew exposed herself because she continues to stay with her husband and this is what she accepts. So you expose yourself, and not only, you expose the trash relationship, but now you're selling to us that your assistant called your husband gay, and you still continue to employ this assistant. So we're going to talk about Drew. But y'all, that whole argument to me is just so dumb because I feel like both Sheree and Drew are not the most authentic people. I feel like what both of them are saying about each other is true in some way, sort of form. We know Sheree don't pay people. Um, Ralph might be for the streets, for all the streets, okay? Don't matter. Streets, boulevards, cul-de-sacs, loops, drives, alleyways, it don't matter. I wouldn't be surprised. So this argument to me is just dumb. All right, so now we move on from that scene. The girls are basically prepping up what's gonna happen when they go to New York. And in this next scene, we see Candy and Ty, and they're taking a walk around the neighborhood. And they start talking about their storylines, because that's what I'm gonna call it, okay? I feel like what Candy and Todd's position is on the show, now it all makes sense, y'all. Because for me, I was thinking it was so dumb for Candy to really be hung up on this damn apartment. The apartment was abandoned, okay? The apartment was not livable. The apartment was not even Airbnb status. Like nobody was there. So for the longest, I was like, why do we continue to talk about this? And the reason being, y'all, is because they need a reason to get to New York. Okay. Beyond Candy working on a play, they need a reason to get to New York to have Tyrone come on this show. So they start talking about this storyline of, oh, okay, well, I want all the husbands to come to New York. Cool. Next. Oh, you got this condo and it's not my condo because I ain't got the keys and I don't want to be in your condo. I want to go stay at a hotel. Candy don't want nothing to do with the condo. Now, I'm tired of talking about the condo only because how many years have we seen Candy and Todd together on this show? Anybody that Todd dated before Candy, I don't give a damn. Candy, you shouldn't give a damn. Candy, you and Ty have built so many things together since then, it doesn't even matter. It don't matter. I mean, sell it, do something. I don't care. Renovate it. Why are we still talking about it? That condo has nothing to do with that woman. Todd paid for it and it's his now. So I'm kind of just like, girl, whatever. So next, y'all, I want to move on from that to let's talk about Drew and Ralph. Drew, I really thought I liked her the first season because I felt like she was willing to be very open. But now I feel like she's just working so hard for a check. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of young grasshopper when it comes to Drew. Um, the other women don't work nearly as hard. Like if Drew exposed what she thought she knew about the other women at the same rate as she did her husband, I feel like she would look less clown like. I feel like you playing yourself. Okay, you played yourself. And I feel like you continue to play yourself, Drew. If only you use that effort to get into it with the other women. I can't even it's embarrassing. It really is. Drew came on the show again, exposing her relationship. Thought she was going to expose Sheree. Everybody knows Sheree don't pay her bills. Only for Sheree to allegedly expose you. And y'all, I know it's like I got a bunch of comments after my last review where people were just like, every time the girls get into it, they go for one of the husband's sexuality, and that's just real lame and tired. I'm gonna tell you in this situation why it's not lame and tired. It's not lame and tired in this situation only because I feel like you can tell that there's a cast of doubt in Drew whenever she decides to defend her husband. You could tell that Drew was low-key triggered. You could tell that Ralph has a bit of mystery or secrecy about him that Drew can't pinpoint her finger on. So that's why I don't think it's tired. I think Anthony did say that. Regardless of if it's true or not, I feel like Drew was actually triggered. And I don't know if Drew believes that it's not true, which is why I feel like she didn't tell her husband what he said. So one of the biggest things that was crazy was that you still see Anthony going around the house working for her, even though he's on probation. Hold on. I just thought, because I just replayed the scene in my mind. Can anybody let me know why the hell Drew and Ralph have 3 assistants and a chef that comes to the house? What is Drew and Ralph doing to have 3 assistants? I'm always so confused by that. They need to be questioning Drew down the way they question down Marlo. There's no reason to have 3 assistants. And I guess it might have been 4 because Ralph just had to let one go. Why are all these people on payroll? So anyway, one of the things that's crazy is Ralph had to fire his big booty assistant, but Anthony is still there on probation. So when I saw Anthony walking around the house, I knew damn well Drew did not tell her husband what happened. Drew didn't tell her husband what happened because she was afraid that some way, somehow, it would end up being her fault. And I think that's why she didn't tell him, which is crazy. But she knows that her husband is missing some marbles, so she didn't bring it up at all. I don't know why you would want to continue to keep this man employed. If you should feel the same way about Anthony that you felt about Sheree's friend for even mentioning it to you. But whatever. So they have Dr. Ken come to the house. And y'all, I usually like seeing Dr. Ken on these reality TV shows, but they need to go ahead and hire the doctor from Love and Marriage Huntsville. Somebody tell me his name. I can't remember his name, but the relationship therapist, the life coach, whatever he is, psychologist from Love and Marriage Huntsville is who Ralph and Drew need. Dr. Ken ain't doing it. So anyway, Dr. Ken comes to the house and we find out that Ralph has been sleeping in one of the kids' room. They've been sleeping completely separately. And they start telling Dr. Ken the series of events that happened to their last fallout that we saw 2 episodes ago, or 1, whatever. What I hated though, and I'm gonna analyze the fuck out of this. I was on Ooh Ladies first panel last Thursday, and somebody said, "Thank you so much, Grace Bay." Dr. Francis, that's who I like from Love and Marriage Huntsville. But I was just laughing, y'all, because I was on Ooh Ladies first panel last Friday, and somebody was like, "Everything doesn't need to be analyzed. Everything doesn't need to be analyzed, Necey." Girl, that's what I'm here for. Everything is gonna be analyzed, okay? You want me to tell story time and retell the episode and not tell y'all what I think? I'm gonna analyze. I'm gonna ask why they did what they did, okay? You can listen or you ain't gotta listen, but I'm gonna analyze this. So Drew gets ready to tell Dr. Ken about the dinner, but she started out the conversation to make sure that she didn't come off defensive to him. Ralph kept trying to convince her that she didn't appreciate what he was doing only because he didn't want to sit with the reality of all the fucked up stuff he was doing. And he's gaslit Drew so much that whenever she told the story to Dr. Ken, she almost didn't want to trigger him. So she starts out, my husband planned a dinner for me and I felt like a queen. He wanted me to feel like a queen. Oh, yeah. Ralph says, yeah, I wanted her to feel like a queen. Y'all, that wasn't the overall vibe of the dinner. You didn't do the dinner because you wanted her to feel like a queen. You did the dinner in order to cancel out whatever ish you was doing with the assistant, and you didn't want Drew to mention it. And in order to keep her from mentioning it, you kept telling her that she wasn't appreciative. So then that way she would wonder what's wrong with me. And you trained her to do that perfectly, because whenever she got to tell the story to Dr. Ken, she couldn't even tell it authentically the way she experienced it. She had to tell the story in a way that would not upset you. Girl, this is what I'm saying. Don't come to me with this, Drew. Get away from me with this, Apollo. I don't want to know this about your relationship because this is a bad look for you. So basically, Ralph brings up how when they were at the dinner, they mentioned that Dr. Ken said he was a maniac. And Dr. Ken basically checks them and he says, what Dr. Ken thinks about your relationship has nothing to do with y'all two things. So next time, leave Dr. Ken out of it. I was like, ooh, okay. So he comes up with this agreement. For 30 days, they can't argue, they can't disrespect each other. And if they do, they have to do what the other one wants them to do, like a bet. And whenever I heard Dr. Ken come up with this, I was kind of just like, that ain't gonna work, right? You're just taking these people money, right? Because that does not even sound like a good exercise for them to do. It sounds like it's a way to make sure that they continue coming back every 30 days or so, and you get that check every 30 days as long as they want to live in hell. Because that's what it feels like to me, and that's what I feel like I'm watching. Okay, so y'all, I think we can move on from that scene to now we see all of the couples and all of the singles packing for New York. And when they do that, Candy has Miriam and Patrick, Miriam, aka Safari, they come to everybody's house and they're giving people sex toys. They're giving people sex toys to get ready to go to New York. And at that point, I was kind of just like, heard it all before. We didn't heard it before. We didn't seen it before. We seen the bedroom by Candy. Patrick and Safari didn't have nothing to do with nothing pulling up to these people's house with no damn sex toys. So that's why I was Kenya in this situation. What does this have to do with anything? Don't have nothing to do with nothing. Okay. I don't even think the play is about sex. I think the play is about young black men or something like that. So I guess that was just Candy's way of trying to spice up the trip. But honestly, for me, I thought it was tired and I wasn't really here for it. Maybe if it was like an all couples trip, but just like Kenya said, I don't want to be wearing no vibrating panties around nobody else's man. 100%. 100%. 100%. It just felt very much like they all were on the verge of having a, I don't know if I could say that word because I don't want to get flagged, but y'all know what I'm saying. It definitely felt like it was encouragement for all of them to have a dungeon sex party and be sexing each other. Y'all tell me if I'm tripping, but that's the vibe I was getting, and we'll talk about that even some more. Okay. Now, next, they're finally in New York or on their way to New York. Thank you. Okay. I don't want to, yes, rhymes with smorgy. Rhymes with smorgy. I couldn't think about the word. But y'all tell me, didn't it feel like it was an encouragement for everybody to be on that type of stuff? It was real weird. Real weird. I would never do that with nobody else. And then the remote controls can control other vibrating panties. And we're gonna talk about it, okay? And then Aaron, I think that's her husband name. He just gonna sit there and laugh. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Okay, so now all of the couples are, I keep saying couples because it felt like a damn couples trip, like no lie. So everybody is getting ready to head to New York. Candy arranged for a sprinter to pick everybody up. And y'all, when I tell y'all I picked up on something, because y'all know I like to analyze the body language, the words, and everything, right? So everybody gets on the bus, and this is whenever Kenya says, "I didn't know it was a couple's trip," and technically she did. Technically, Candy told her, "If you want to bring somebody, go ahead. It's fine." So I'm like, okay, she did say that, Kenya, but I feel you. I feel you on that. It's basically a couple's trip. But one of the things I wanted to call out to y'all is whenever they were on the bus, did y'all notice how damn packed that sprinter was? How tight. They was packed in there like some damn sardines. But then you get to Ralph, and Ralph is sitting up there like this, arms wide, legs wide, taking up all the space. And everything about him just reads narcissist to me. He takes up all of the space in whatever room he's in. Literally. Literally, physically, he did that. It was no room on that bus. Everybody was squished in together, but Ralph sat there, legs wide, arms wide, taking up all the space. Maybe I'm being petty, but I notice little shit like that. So anyway, they all arrive to New York, and when they do, they're welcome to a penthouse dinner. There's penthouse A, which is Candy and Todd's penthouse, and then penthouse B, which they have to go into competition for. The competition is whoever can come up with the freakiest story. Whoever can come up with the freakiest story or tell it, not, let me make sure I say this correctly. Not the freakiest story, because that's what they did. whoever can tell me about your freakiest experience, something that they actually should have lived through, but it seemed like everybody was making up lies. So whoever tells a freakiest story, they get penthouse B. So Sonya says that they had sex on the plane on the way to Dubai. Cool. I was gonna say that feels kind of normal. Not in my ministry. I haven't done that, but I'm just saying, like, usually whenever people bring up freaky stories like sex on a plane, okay, I've heard that before. Marlo says that they had sex at a zoo and a giraffe was looking at her and licked her face. Okay. Sheree. I like Sheree's story. I think Sheree should have won. Sheree, I don't think she lied. Sheree said that she had sex at the Ritz-Carlton on the beach in Miami in broad daylight. I believe her. And for that reason, I think Sheree should have won. Next, Ralph ends up telling their story. And it just sounded dumb. They were in the ocean, having sex in the ocean, and the whales were watching. How far was you out in the water? Like Sheree said. You wilding. It's just something that's so uncomfortable about the way that Ralph even talks. So lastly, Kenya says that, she prefaced the story real nice. She gave us a little bit of background story before she got into her lie. I thought she did a good job. She said, I used to date this guy who used to hunt, and we went to hunting grounds where you would, be able to hunt coyotes, and he put a tag in a coyote, and we had to follow the trail of blood, and then we ended up having sex inside this little cave. And I was like, that's a good lie. That is a good lie. Kenya ended up winning. Low-key, I feel like Sheree should have won because her story was believable. And to me, I felt like that was freaky. Broad daylight on the beach. Okay. But Kenya was going to get it anyway because Kenya was feeling a way about not having somebody there with her. And also because Candy and Kenya are the closest out of everybody else there. And Brittany, you're right. I know that Candy is promoting the business, but it's kind of just like, girl, we get it. It could have been a way better segue into that. So Drew and Ralph are in the bedroom and they're having conversations about Sheree. And this is the moment when I was like, I know damn well she didn't tell Ralph what was said because Ralph was telling her, don't worry, you'll handle her. Don't worry about it. He felt no type of ways about Sheree. And that's when I knew she hadn't told him what was said. So finally, everybody goes to Todd's condo. And Sheree is texting Tyrone trying to see, are you coming? Did you get approval? And he's telling her, I have to let you know. I'll keep you updated. Tyrone ain't coming. I told y'all. This might be part of the scheme that Sheree set up to sell her storyline to Real Housewives of Atlanta and get another check this season. Now, Sheree says on the bus, they start discussing Candy and Todd, right? When does the panty situation happen? The panty situation happens before this. So let me tell y'all about this, okay? So everybody's loading the bus, and when they're getting ready to get on the bus, we get like a little checklist of who has the vibrating panties on and who doesn't. And it seems like only the women who came there with a guy had the panties on. So Drew got the vibrating panties on. Sonya has the vibrating panties. Candy, Sheree claims she had them on, but she forgot her remote. They put an X by her name, but allegedly Candy says that the remote can control different panties. So I don't know why they didn't just check her in. Anyway, this was weird as fuck to me. Sonya's in the back of the bus sitting next to her husband. Drew and Ralph are sitting in front of her. Everybody else is just lined up because it don't matter where they at. And they are pressing the button. Everybody's pressing the button, playing around with the vibrating panties. And for whatever reason, only Sonya's is going off uncontrollably. And Sonya's like, wait, who's doing that? And she stands up. And it's weird and it's awkward because Sonya looks awkward, like she's uncomfortable. But y'all know what I mean by like that awkward laugh where it's like, stop, stop, because it wasn't her husband. Come to find out it was Ralph, okay? To be real, y'all, when Ralph first did it, I don't think he initially knew that he was buzzing Sonya. But eventually, after the second time, the third time that Sonya said who's doing that, I think he knew that he was buzzing Sonya. That to me was weird. Okay. And it was even more so weird because Sonya's husband just laughed it off. And I don't feel like that would be typical in most environments. I feel like both Sonya and her husband would have to be a little bit uncomfortable. Now, y'all tell me if I'm tripping, but it was an awkward moment. Um, so yeah, right. The remote thing is because of frequency. Right. I get it. I get why it buzzed off. I understand why. So I don't think he knew the first time, but I think the second, third, and fourth time he knew that he was buzzing Sonya's panties. It was weird. And that's what I'm saying is giving smorgy vibes. Okay. That's what was giving smorgy vibes because I would not want to wear no vibrating panties that somebody else's husband can control. Unless that's what you are into. Unless that's what type of party y'all were there for. And Donna says, "Uh oh, here comes the Drew and Sonya fallout." It's gonna happen. It's not because of the panties, but I definitely feel like Sonya is going to start switching up on Drew. I do. I really do. Sonya is there to collect a check, and she's there to be the spicy Cynthia. I feel like she's a mix of Sheree and Cynthia. Oh, both y'all missed that part. Nah, I saw that part and I was like, this is so weird. It was weird, real weird. Okay, so while they're on the bus, Candy and Todd start talking about their power dynamic in their relationship. And when I say power dynamic, I really just mean like main character. Candy likes to be the main character. She likes to be involved in all of Todd's projects. But whenever Todd does something on his own, she feels away. Or whenever they go to New York, she feels away because she's on his stomping grounds, yada, yada, yada. Now, Sheree brought up a memory that I remember, and that was whenever Portia said, the people say that you allow Todd to go by Marvin whenever he's in different cities so he can mess with different women. And I remember that. I always think of Todd as Marvin. I really do. This shit's too funny. So Sheree brings that back up, the bone carrier, and she's like, maybe she does have every right to be worried. Sonya then says that she's surprised that Candy's worried because Candy is a boss in her relationship and she's been famous for so long, right? So they end up getting to the actual y'all, let me not skip over what Marlo said. Marlo's a trip. Marlo said that Todd can be successful on his own, but he's not going to be successful without Candy's money to back it. I was like, girl, you were shady, and that was funny as hell. And you're right, Nola. I don't think he's cheating on Candy, but the Marvin, just his nickname is too funny to me. So now we finally get to Todd's apartment or condo. It has nice bones. And that's whenever Kenya the builder comes in and she's telling him everything that he needs to do with the place. You need to remove the backsplash. You need to remove these stairs. Nice view, but you need to bust this wall down, put a fireplace right there. And she's exactly right because the apartment was in shambles. It looked like somebody started renovations on it, but then they didn't complete it. So when I walked in, y'all see how dedicated I am to this. I catch myself doing that in these damn reviews. Y'all see how dedicated I am to this? So whenever they walked into the condo and I saw it, I was kind of just like, sell the shit. Just sell it. But because Candy and Todd have the money to renovate it, why not keep it as a property and eventually make profit on it? The place is already paid for. It's his place. All you have to do is renovate it. So I think that makes perfect sense. And it had a really nice view. Okay, and Marlo says, this is nice, but all this shit need to be redone. I am Marlo, okay? That's exactly what I was thinking. It's nice, but all the shit need to be redone. So finally, y'all, let's get on to the dinner. Sonya. When I told y'all Sonya is trying to be a spicy Cynthia, she's trying to be a spicy Cynthia. There's 3 moments that stick out with Sonya where I'm like, I don't really know if I like her, but then again, she's just doing her job. Okay. Now, number 1, the first moment that stuck out was whenever we met Sonya at the Lee Archive event. When we met her, she was the one who came over to Marlo to carry the bone and tell her that people were asking questions about her event. But she didn't want to keep that same energy. Go back and watch it. Because at first she says a lot of the girls were saying. And then when Sheree came with bone carrying energy on 100,000, that's when you could tell Sonya almost was like, I don't know if I want to go that road. So then after the fact, Sonya was like, well, I was wondering as well, to try to make it seem less messy. So that was strike one. Strike two for me, and again, this one I don't really know if she counted as a strike because I feel like she might have just been doing her job, was whenever she brought up the assistant in front of Kandi while Drew was there. Okay. We've seen Drew sell her storyline multiple times, and anything that you say on the show is fair game. So fine. Now, strike three is at the dinner this episode, whenever she says, Kandi and Drew, why aren't you guys wearing your rings? Number one, Sonya, you know that Drew is not in a good place with her husband. She told you that one-on-one. But the reason why I kind of feel a way about it is because this is the second time that she's taken the easy route by coming for Drew, or, starting something with Drew, or maybe trying to expose Drew is what I should say. And I don't feel like I haven't seen her keep that energy with anybody else on the show. So let's say this. I'm not mad at her actions because it's a part of the show. However, if she only has this energy with Drew because Drew is her friend and that's the easier target, then I'm really going to feel away like I don't really like Sonya. That's how I feel about it. So she asked Kandi and Drew why they aren't wearing their rings. And it was actually like the episode before where Kandi was wearing her ring. She knew she wanted to specifically ask Drew, but in order to seem not as messy, let me just ask everybody. Kandi says that she'll never really wear her ring like that. Not a big deal. Drew says that, it was spring, summer, fall. And Drew said she was pregnant, gained weight, stopped wearing the ring, lost weight, put the ring on, but then her and Ralph had gotten to a point in their relationship where they were going through something, so she stopped wearing her ring. Next, in order to clean all that up, she says, well, we're actually working on something. Right. This is the comment right here. Because how you call Drew when you get in an accident, now you coming for her all of a sudden. Right. And I know some people are going to act like they're completely oblivious to this. Some people are going to act like, well, she was just asking a question. Well, she's not doing anything different than what the other girls are doing. But y'all, these girls know what to do whenever the cameras come around. Whenever the cameras come around, you know what conversations you have to start in order to catch a scene, in order to make a moment happen. And that's what Sonya's doing. I think that she's learned there's either somebody in her ear telling her, this is what you should do. This is what question you should ask. So that way you have a moment. So I think she really is. When I say spicy Cynthia, that's exactly who she is. So anyway, Drew tries to flip the story and turn it into a positive by telling everybody that her and Ralph has been going to counseling. And what they decided was that they can't argue for 30 whole days. And everybody's just like, The first person to say something was Sonya. Sonya said, good luck. And I was kind of just like, that's not cute. You were brought on the show through Drew. That's your girl. And you know that relationship is a hot damn mess, but that's something that you should discuss in private. It's just, I feel some way about it. So Ralph, he talks about how he fired the big booty assistant. And he wants to know, like, when will we get to a point in our relationship where we can just stop talking about this? This is old because this isn't even what it seems. It just seems like it comes off a different way. And that's when Kenya chimes in and she scolds him. She says, time, Ralph, time. And what'd she say? Reassuring actions. And I was like, you know what? Yes, Kenya. Drew is low-hanging fruit at this point. Shout out to Kenya. Sonya is using Drew as low-hanging fruit. Thank you. So anyway, Kenya, she says time and reassuring actions will show her. And she says, you know what? You remind me so much of Mark, because Mark used to do those things to me. Mark would disrespect me like that. And she told Ralph that if her husband told her that what she remembered was a lie, she would go off on him. So she really was just saying, this is how Drew feels. I understand because I was in her position. And Kenya feels like because she and Drew have started fresh in their relationship, that she was going to try to be nice and help Drew out in this situation. Now, y'all, let's be real. The title of the video or the thumbnail is triggered. Kenya spoke up because she was triggered. And usually I say stay out of folks' business. And low key, I still will stand by that. You know why, Kenya? Because even though I feel like what Kenya says makes sense, I feel like Kenya's intentions are real, it won't matter because Drew is gonna stick beside him. She gonna stick beside him, okay? And still sell a storyline, still make a check off of her trash ass marriage. It's very similar to like Ray J and Princess. Every season, they're gonna come to us. Oh, we almost got a divorce. Oh, we done. Oh, he abandoned the family. Ralph and Drew are 100,000% giving me Ray J and Princess. And it gets to a point in time where I'm like, I don't want to see y'all theatrics no more. So, Kenya, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. So, anyway, Kenya is talking to the other women and she's like, he reminds me so much of Mark. He's an asshole. I can see it. And he is an asshole. So, while Kenya's triggered, Marlo speaks up and she says, well, you know what? We actually need to look at Drew because he only does what you allow. Facts. And that's when Kenya was like, you know what? You're right. Because what am I saying anything for if Drew kind of does the same thing that you do in her friendships? Because we've all gotten into it with her at a point in time. And they're like, what do I do? Drew doesn't admit when she's wrong. Drew does this. Drew does that. Drew doesn't listen. And then that's whenever the conversation moves over to Sheree. So Sheree starts talking and she was like, you know, I didn't come for you first, but this is really what I heard. You're still keeping Anthony as your assistant, even though he called your husband gay. And you could tell, Ralph was shocked. Ralph was like, what? You could see Drew's face. Drew was embarrassed because she never told her husband. She just told her husband that they were beefing, but didn't say about what. But let's talk about this text message that Anthony allegedly sent Sheree. Sheree pulls out a text message. There's a selfie of Anthony and Ralph taking a picture. He then sends the selfie to Sheree and he says, I'm out, and wherever he is, Dennis, somebody baby daddy and Drew's husband is what he said. I have more tea on him too. Never in the text message, Sheree, at least from what we saw, never in the text message, Sheree, did this man say Ralph is gay. Now, it might have been, yes, Kenya, it might have been a moment where Anthony told you in person that he thought he was gay, but you can't produce them text messages like they're receipts. And nowhere in the text messages did this man say anything about his sexuality. All he told you was that he saw Drew's husband out and about. Now, Kenya, I'm so glad you said this. Kenya says, at the dinner, you can tell that Drew didn't tell Ralph by the way he said, who? Now, this is my thing. Both Drew and Ralph, to me, had interesting reactions when hearing the rumors. When Drew heard the rumor, she said, this is not the time or place to discuss my husband. She didn't say, bitch, you a motherfucking lie. She didn't say that. She didn't say, keep my husband's name out your fucking mouth. She didn't say that. She said, this is not the time or place to discuss my husband. Then, whenever Ralph heard the rumor, he was more so worried about who said that rumor. It wasn't, that's a lie. It was who? Like, who'd you hear that from? So, to me, y'all, I think that this isn't a tired conversation. I think it's an interesting conversation only because of what reactions we're getting from Drew and Ralph. And they end up leaving the conversation to be continued. Now, Drew, you know good and damn well if he fired this big booty ass assistant, there's no way Anthony should have been in your household. She says, "Well, we run our businesses like corporations. We don't just fire people. We put them on a individual program or whatever, performance program." But yes, I just think it's so interesting. Like, both of y'all's reactions to me feels like this isn't the first time y'all heard that rumor. Or either Drew's reaction to me tells me this isn't the first time she thought that rumor. I'm not saying it's true, but I do think that it's a soft spot for them. So, y'all tell me what y'all thought about this episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. It was a messy one, but I can't wait for next week. I feel like the first whole half of the episode was real slow, and then towards the end, it kind of picked up with that argument. So, we're going to see what happens next week. Again, y'all, I am reviewing Love and Marriage Huntsville today at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard, along with Love and Marriage DC. So y'all meet me back here when y'all get off of work, because I know y'all watch me on the clock on y'all's lunch breaks. Grab a wine glass, and I will see y'all then. Hope y'all enjoyed this review. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.